I'm not sick. I just have little allergies this morning. What is it that happens this time of year? The molds or? What? Try this again. Let's do this. Here. Log into Silver. According to this, we are recording. Okay. Well, like I say, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience this morning. I'm Cad today. So some of you saw the prayer requests. Sandy's mom had a bit of a mishap and has been in the hospital since Tuesday night. Waiting for a room. She's still an emergency. But yeah, got some things going on. So I've been doing the graveyard shift. And Sandy was gonna get to the hospital in time for me to take a shower, but some work stuff for her didn't work out, so I said, don't worry about it. Bible study people won't care. They don't care if I'm casual. Or I should say, speak for myself. And so, yeah, keep your prayers going there for Laura. We were getting ready to move to living this weekend anyway, so yeah, so pray for Sandy and her sisters and mom and all of that. So that's a quick little info and prayer concern. We got some others that are just coming out, so that'll be in the bulletin and went out on the e-news email. Merrill Coster's getting some treatments for cancer starting Monday. And so they've asked for prayer. You've got a number of people. Check out your bulletin. We've got a number of people going in for surgeries and stuff. We have Darlene Yoakum's memorial service this Saturday. Let's see, what else? Yes, Jerry.
Is the Harold all still in the hospital?
Harold is home. He had some fluid that they got off of him, and then he's continued to work on that. So I think that's going well.
And Herb's home.
And Herb Warner, thank you. Herb Warner is home as well. So continued prayers for him and for Joyce. All right, let's see.
We're praising because Gary finished his graduate.
All right. You graduated. No, your heart's doing well. And that you're here. Continued prayers for your back issue. Yeah. Let's see. We've been having nice Wednesday services, I think. It's going well. Lovely soups last night. And lovely Lenten worship services. So this Sunday we get to the temptation of Jesus in the gospel, not temptation of Jesus, it's so-called cleansing of the temple. I think there are better titles for it than that, but that from the Gospel of John. So I get to preach on that this Sunday and looking forward to that. So yeah, I think that's the scoop. Hope you're all doing well. And I guess no snow. We dodged a bullet. 2 degrees or so. we'd have begotten it yesterday, but I guess the mountains got a blast of snow. Justin had a great snowboard day on Tuesday, I think. So that was great. All right. Well, enough of all that. Welcome to the Facebook. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. I wanted to give you a report. My trip to, I told Manna folks this yesterday, but my trip to Phoenix was lovely. As I mentioned last week, I took off on Thursday late afternoon, flew took a quick flight down to Phoenix, saw my brother, and he talked my ear off for a day and a half. It's fun. I never said anything. So we have a lot, our family growing up, he and my mom and I, we were very verbose together, like almost like an Italian family. And so we have robust conversations about everything. So that was lovely to connect with him, but my little reunion of my baseball team was really cool. And a couple of neat things, and I also got to spend some time with my brother's son, my nephew, and he and his wife are expecting. I was at his wedding. I didn't do his wedding, but I was at his wedding. But so they're expecting a child. So we got to have breakfast with him and Sydney. So that was lovely. My baseball. So my nephew and one of the guys from my baseball team, because he's Facebook friends with me, I guess, listen to our Bible studies on so I said, well, that's cool. So there you go. So there's a cool affirmation of what we're doing here with our hybrid thing. All right, now that's enough of all of that. We got some great texts to get into today. Let me share this up. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's pray. Gracious and loving God, thank you for this day. Thank you for your love and care, and that all of our brokenness, all of our struggle is in you, and you've enveloped us all with your love. So as we look back to Exodus and this amazing story, give us your Holy Spirit and let it be a light to our path and a lamp to our feet. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Where we left off was with the people having a very broken spirit. They had believed Moses, but they were very, they were very sad. Let's say that much. And we talked a lot about what is the significance of the Exodus story for us. Is this a story of liberation primarily from the oppressive power of the Pharaoh and slavery and exploitive systems? Or is there something deeper going on? And I suggested fairly strongly that there's something more going on. But of course, that involves the Egyptians and slavery and all these things, and certainly things that are not what God wants for us and our flourishing. But nonetheless, we worked that over really well. I did learn, as I reread some of my commentaries, that some people call this the gospel according to Exodus. These verses that we finished with. So I'm just thinking it might make sense to reread them to set the context of where we're going. We won't spend tons of time there. And then also some people believe that who ascribe to the document theory, that the Old Testament is really a number of different traditions that were brought together, probably in the exile in the 500s, let's say, BC. That's not a completely universally accepted view. I think probably more universally accepted is that the God's Spirit bringing us Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers in particular, and the entire Old Testament is a little bit more complicated than God just giving it to Moses and Moses giving it to us. That it's more complex than that, but that doesn't mean it's not God's holy word. But those people that ascribe to what's called the document theory really believe that this retelling of what God has already told Moses back in chapter 3 is maybe the priestly source, a source that's writing in the exile time, hundreds of years, 1,000 years or so later than this actual event. So, but again, if that's helpful for you, great. If not, just forget it. So, can you please go away, sidebar? I don't know. Why does it do that sometimes? I've got it set to disappear, but sometimes it doesn't like to disappear. So I'll put it back down there. God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and God Almighty. But by my name, the Lord, I did not make myself known to them. And we did, I think, touch on that a little bit, that the use of the term Yahweh, we talked a lot about that. But, when the story's told later, they use the name for Yahweh back in the telling and the beginning of the story in Genesis, etc. And again, this is something that some of the people that believe that's a more complex gathering of traditions, they use that as an example. But they knew God is God, but now he's revealed them as I am who I am. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they lived as sojourners. So this is again retelling the covenant. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the people of Israel, whom the Egyptians hold as slaves, and I have remembered my covenant. This is a way of saying, it's not like God forgot it, but now I'm going to put it into, we're going to have an event. It's going to come into play now. Say therefore to the people of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Okay, there's number one, gospel according to Exodus. I will deliver you from slavery to them, number two, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great acts of judgment. Now, redeem in Greek means to be bought back, but it can in Hebrew mean to kind of be avenged or this type of thing. It clearly has to do with getting the people out of Egypt. But when we get to the word redeem, again, my suggestion is that a deeper reading of Exodus is what we really need to be redeemed from is not just the Pharaoh, but sin and our old sinful self. And we'll see that once the people get out of Egypt. It's not like it's nirvana now, right? It's not like everything's fine now that we got the Pharaoh taken care of. We're in paradise. No, trouble still keeps going. So he remembers, say there for the people, I am the Lord, I will bring you out from, there's the gospel. Verse 7, I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I am the Lord, your God, who has brought you out from under the burden of the Egyptians. If I were to put this into our language for us, I wouldn't change a thing except for brought you out from under the burden of sin, death, and the devil. It's that simple. I will take you to be my people. I love that. When we get to the 10 Commandments, although I don't know what's in the text for this Sunday, we have the 10 Commandments as our first reading this Sunday. The first part of the first commandment is not, you shall have no other gods. It's, I am the Lord your God. That's the first part of the commandment. And we can't ever forget that. So I'm going to take you to be my people. I'm going to claim you. I made a covenant a long time ago, but I'm going to claim you. So just beautiful gospel words here. I will bring you into the land that I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to you for possession. I am the Lord. And this, of course, is Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton. Moses spoke thus to the people of Israel, and this is where we left off last week, but they did not listen to Moses because of their broken spirit and harsh slavery. Dr. Fredheim, in his commentary that I've quoted a few times, says this shows us that people's circumstances have a lot to do with whether they can hear the gospel. And that made me think of something in a leadership class I took a long time ago. John Maxwell, he's kind of a guru amongst leadership books. He's a Christian. He started out in the Christian realm, and now he's out there in big name in leadership amongst all business stuff. And I went to a seminar of his on the 5 levels of leadership, and the first level is you have a position. I'm a pastor. Okay, because of that, I have a certain sense of leadership. But that's the most superficial kind of leadership, just because you have a title. And when I went to the seminar, I was in with a bunch of you know, like small business managers and people that manage tire shops and, you know, might a mechanic, you know, and so they're there, okay, yeah, I'm the manager of the store, whatever. And then he went to the second level and he says, you got to care about your people. And I'm like, well, no, duh. I mean, I'm pastor, but these managers were like, what? My employees, don't have to care about them, you know? And then the third level is you actually help them be better at what they do. And then the fourth level is you make the organization better. And then the fifth level is kind of a combination where, so when I look at this, and I remember that session, I remember the phrase came out under that number 2 level, you got to care about your people. And the statement is people don't care how much you know unless they know how much
You care.
Right. Well, we hear about that here. And, you know, if people like, so when it comes to the church, if we're just giving them, hey, Jesus loves you and has died for your sins, and yeah, you don't have any food and, you know, you don't have a place over your head, well, maybe they're not going to listen to us. But, you know, maybe if we care about the whole person, that, you know, it all, and that's kind of the way it works. Yes,
There's
Rob.
a hierarchy of needs. I forget the
Maslow,
That's the
yeah.
Hierarchy of needs. If you're worried about eating, you're not too concerned.
That's true.
about-
His Maslow's psychology hierarchy or pyramid of needs, you know, you've got to have these base things before you start to get more elevated and I think he called it self-actualized or whatever, but yeah. Please, Sharon.
Well, to understand together and form goals, and that's what we do. And I think that's some goals in mind or staked out.
Sure.
And then see the advantages of those goals. And
Yeah.
we have defined it.
Yeah, and those 5 levels of leadership, that was a really helpful thing for me to think about in being a pastor. Because, okay, I've got the title. I'm a people person, so I care about my people. That's pretty, but then am I equipping them? Are they to be better disciples? And then fourth, am I helping this church as an organization? You know, and that's the ever challenging thing. And that, yes, that involves what's our mission. And you guys know by heart our mission statement. I don't even have to ask you that we connecting more to Christ and loving Kitsap in the world. See, I'm still trying to help you get that. Let's say it together. Connecting more to Christ and loving Kitsap and the world. One more time. Connecting more to Christ and loving Kitsap and the world. All right. And so connecting, how do we do that? We have worship and give people the goods and word and sacrament. We have Bible studies. We have, you know, all of this. We're connecting more as members, but we're also hopefully connecting more people. That's the challenge. And the soup suppers, all of that. See, and then what you do is you start thinking about everything we do as a church. Is this helping our mission? You know, because then maybe we think, well, this isn't helping our mission, so we'll let that go. You know, so these are all questions that as lead pastor I ask all the time, and your leadership is pondering as well. But nonetheless, that's when Fredheim said that, you know, that the people didn't hear because of their circumstances. They were, you know, that kind of got me thinking. But at the same time, remember that our circumstances, the other reason, and I would go beyond what Dr. Fredheim said, the other reason that our circumstances keep us from hearing the word, trusting and believing it, is because we make an idol out of our circumstances. I'm not having a good day today.
Sorry for me because
Yeah, right. I don't think God loves me because look, this person passed away and lost my job and my friends disown me, or, you know, we tend to let our circumstances speak louder than God's word. And that is a challenge, you know. No, what's really true is what God says. And so the people here, they're like, huh, sure, Moses, we're in the same boat as we always have been. We don't believe you now. Yeah, let's see some action. So remember, feelings, circumstances, I know this was in a sermon a few weeks ago, so those are important. But God's word is what's true, what God says about you, what your baptism says about you. What's the truth? Okay. So now we're to the new stuff. So the Lord said to Moses, go in, tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the people of Israel go out of this land. So again, go in. But Moses said to the Lord, behold, the people of Israel have not listened to me. How then shall the Pharaoh listen to me? For I am of uncircumcised lips. Now that's a way of saying, again, what has Moses said before? I'm not very good. I'm not very good. I'm not a good persuasive, charismatic speaker or whatever. And that's why he gave Aaron. So he gives now what Moses is doing, he's looking at the circumstances of the people. That's one of the things that you are taught in seminary as a pastor, and this is true for all of you in your leadership as a Christian, that be careful about looking at results. Don't let results be an idol either. Nothing's happening, Throw in the towel. No, we don't want to do that. We want to keep being faithful.
What chapter?
What chapter? Chapter 6. I'm sorry, Gary. The reason I chuckle is I just launched right in and I'm actually not getting very far in reading the text. I'm being very verbose today on whatever. So let's keep reading. So chapter 6, verse 10, but Moses said, and then he says, I'm uncircumcised lips. But the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them a charge. So we get Aaron back in there now. And gave them a charge about the people of Israel and about Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to bring the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So God just goes back, oh, that's adorable. Thank you. I know you're not a very good speaker, but just do what I tell you to do. That's adorable. I love that. That's in the New Bill translation.
It's good.
God chuckled and said, what am I going to do? All right, now we get a genealogy, which is interesting. And so genealogies, I've never been they don't just grab me. Maybe they do you, but that's always a spot. But they're important, and we'll talk about why here in a minute. Let's get it on the table if I can pronounce all the names. These are the heads of the fathers' houses. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, Carmi. These are the clans of Reuben. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul. The son of a Canaanite woman. That's interesting. These are the clans of Simeon. So these are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations. Sons of who? Levi. Okay, remember that. Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The years of the life of Levi being 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni, and Shimei by their clans. The sons of Kohath, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uziel. The years of the life of Kohath being 133 years. And remember, we hadn't really talked too much about it in Exodus yet, but remember in Genesis, we explored that there's much more going on in the years than just, a factual biological, this is actually how long they lived. But nonetheless, I got no problems with people living that long. That's fine. God can do whatever God wants to do.
Yeah. That readers don't ever have to read.
This text is not in the lectionary. We could put it in there if anybody would try it. Yeah.
Good Friday sort of text.
Yeah, that's right. Amram took as his wife Jochebed and his father's sister, and she bore him Aaron and Moses. Oh, okay, now we got somebody that we know. And the years of the life of Amram being 137 years, the sons of Izhar, Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri, the sons of Uziel, Mishael, Elzaphan, and Sithri. Aaron took as his wife Elisheba, and the daughter of Aminadab, and the sister of Nahshon, and she bore him Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. The sons of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Abisaph. These are the clans of the Korahite. Eleazar, Aaron's son, took as his wife one of the daughters of Putiel, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites by their clan. Now, without going into all these names and what they might mean or why it's important, what do you know of the tribe of Levi? Who are they? Bingo. Now, this is another reason why some biblical scholars feel this is a priestly source, because it really matters, this genealogy, see? So Aaron is in the what family? Does he have the pedigree?
Yes.
Yeah, yep. So he's a priest. He's good. He's in the right clan. He's in the right tribe. And I think that's what this is about.
Is it still kind of like that in Israel today? I mean, do they still follow in their synagogues, keep track of if they're a Levite or?
I do not believe so. I had someone ask me that just recently because before our trip got canceled, and they were wondering about the Jewish people today. Like, do they think about themselves as this tribe or that tribe? And what I said is that pretty much all of those tribes and Israel and Judah, i.e. the southern tribe of Judah, when the northern kingdom's wiped out, most people feel like the northern tribes are gone. They assimilated, they got taken off into Syria, or some were left behind. Some people try and make the case that the Samaritans were a group of leftover northern kingdom tribe folks. But then the southern kingdom, what are they called? They're called Jews. Where does that come from? Judah. So really, all modern Jewish people would say, I'm from that. Now, whether some have tried to figure out if they're, from one of the other tribes, I don't know. And especially Levi, am I from the priestly? I don't, because there isn't a temple and there aren't priests. I think that's probably gotten lost, but I'm sure somebody there is like got the Levi's ready to go once the temple's rebuilt. But yeah, so I think that's going to be an accurate response. It's a great question. Let's see, please, Kathy.
So it's interesting that they included Reuben and Simeon before they got to the Levi.
Yes.
Are you concerned with that?
Right.
But so Simeon, according to this map, was kind of enclosed by Judah.
Okay.
And then Reuben is across the Dead Sea from Judah.
So southern.
But still kind of southern.
Southern.
So I wonder if some of those got kind of absorbed into the southern kingdom.
That's a great thought. Let's see, what does Fredheim say about the Jews? The genealogy links Moses and Aaron with the 12 sons of Jacob, but concentrates on Levi. As such, it serves credentialing purpose, we kind of mentioned that, demonstrating that both Moses and Aaron, Aaron especially, have the appropriate priestly lineage. After Moses and Aaron's failures with Pharaoh and the resultant identity issues, in view of the accusations of some Israelites and Aaron's later latecomer status, it may have been thought important to inform the questioning reader. In other words, this genealogy is put there to say, listen to these guys. Yeah. Chapter stresses that God addressed both Moses and Aaron and sent them on this mission. There may also have been a revisionist history that worked on behalf of Aaron that prompted the insertion. So that what that means is this whole concept that later this was inserted to kind of shore up Aaron's position. I like that Fred Heim connects it to our genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1. The Christian will be reminded of a comparable interweaving of genealogy and story of another Savior of Israel. Many details in the genealogy remain puzzling, however. So Fred Heim is a, biblical Hebrew scholar, says there's stuff that we don't quite understand, not least how the 4 generations from Levi to Aaron jive with the 430 years of 1240. So you got this genealogy going back before the 400 years, but that's a lot longer than the names that we've got, I guess is the point. Yeah.
And then the Bible, the note that my study Bible has just says, it's linking it to the 12 sons of Jacob, and they listed Reuben and Simeon because they were,
Right. Yeah, because they were part of the, So there you go. There's the genealogy. So now that's why it was important I read all those names. Please. All right. Any other thoughts on the genealogy? Let's keep rolling. These are the Aaron and Moses to whom the Lord said, bring out the people of Israel from the land of Egypt by their hosts. It was they who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, about bringing out the people of Israel from Egypt. This Moses and Aaron. So this little couple of verses here, it makes total sense. Like, hey, people way later, these guys were the real deal. These were the ones. This is the folks that God chose. On the day when the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, the Lord said to Moses, I am the Lord. Tell Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, all that I say to you. But Moses said to the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips. How will Pharaoh listen to me? So Moses, again, you see the repeat here. It's like, wait a minute. That's why these scholars think that stuff has been woven together, different traditions. Nonetheless, I won't go into that again, but this is another example. Moses is still on this, they're not going to listen. How can you keep telling me to do this?
Tell him that he went on fighting. So it's like, hey, it's a waste of my time.
Moses is like, okay, you told me, I went and told them, it made their life horrible. Remember, no straw for the bricks, increased quotas. It just made it worse, God. So, I told you so. But, God's going to stick with it. Again, there's that lesson. Listen to what God says. Don't look at your circumstances. One way or the other. I didn't mention. Somebody could be like, everything's fallen into place in my life. Everything's smooth sailing, and I won the jackpot, the lottery, and that doesn't mean God favors you. It might. Sorry, did you win? But we sometimes conclude, this is what the prosperity teachers teach, is that if you do everything right and give to them and give your seed money, that then, God's going to bless you. And so it's a transaction. Sometimes God does do that, though. I mean, I've said this many times, and Mark Allen Powell, in his book on giving that I'm using for Sunday morning, says he's never met an unhappy tither. I've had multiple people tell me, when I started giving that 10%, everything's fallen into place. But I don't want you to give 10% so that everything will fall into place. Because what if it doesn't? And so that's the thing. I think I saw a hand. Yes.
Because a sense of God's name it's my turn. You know, I'm a stimulus response, right? And, we're looking for something to happen in the foreseeable future, and a lot of that does not happen. But as things go, that's the tough part about believing is hanging in there while it's not.
Yes, great point. It is that's the rubber meets the road thing when it doesn't seem to be working and hanging in there. Yeah, excellent. Okay. I noticed that let me do something. While you were talking, Sharon, I noticed that this owl. It's not. Is it not plugged in? Is there a light? Chin cam? Oh, great. We'll see. It doesn't seem to be connected. It's not important. We can function without it. Let me just quick check something on its app. See what it's telling me. Yeah. Nearby devices connecting. Now a light is flashing, see? That's okay. It looks like it needs, it needed an update. That'd be a good sermon title one day, wouldn't it? Come to church. You need an update. Okay. We'll let that go. It's updating. We didn't shut down our group, did we? No, everybody's there. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Moses and Aaron before Pharaoh. We finally get to Pharaoh. And the Lord said to Moses, see, I have made you like God to the Pharaoh. Wow. Elohim. I think this is going to be Elohim. And your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall tell Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go out of his land. Now let's pause there and think about the significance of this.
Sentence isn't very good.
The next sentence is we're back to the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. Since we worked that over really well, we'll just hear that and, But what about God saying to Moses, you're going to be like God to the Pharaoh? What does that mean? And what is that?
I'm surprised that wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, it doesn't say like a God. It says like God.
Be of equal status.
Be of equal. So is it a status thing?
I think Pharaoh's gonna suddenly see, he's not gonna want to acknowledge it, but he's gonna see God as being.
There we go.
So
Say it again, Gloria, a little louder.
acknowledge it, but he's gonna see God working.
So look what God's done. I'm not going to talk to Pharaoh directly. Couldn't God do that?
Yeah.
So here we get the concept that we live with all the time. Now, some of you, I know, and I'm thankful that you've had those dramatic encounters where like God told me. I mean, I heard him. I don't think that happens on a daily basis, however. Those are usually the stories I hear are kind of, special things, a moment, etc. And I'm not talking about having a sense that God is leading you. That's the Holy Spirit. I'm talking about God talking to you like I'm talking to you right now. Now, a lot of Christian pastors claim that that's the way it works. The Pentecostal pastor gets up there and says, God told me to tell you today. And I don't think I could tell you that. I'd have to say, God led me to tell you today. Because God gave us a Moses. What is our Moses? Who is our Moses? It's sitting in front of you. It's the Bible, not the owl. The owl is still updating Apple, man. It's not. I love it. Yeah.
They have lots of little dogs. Well, what's the meaning of this? They can never get napkins, but they probably have a sense, especially when they're kings and pharaohs. They want to know the top command, and they don't really.
Yeah. Before you go, Paul, Gloria, what? I forgot, I'm sorry.
This is a. These people who deliver.
Yes, I meant to get in to tell you all that Melanie's service, have you heard the time yet? Yeah, the 23rd, Saturday, 12:30. And I'm sorry I didn't get to you. If you could, with your, however you want to do it. I meant to get there before this morning, so, yeah, please pass that on. Paul.
Say that. I know in some circumstances or whatever, that when he says that you will be as God or like him. Well, here he is, he's telling Pharaoh what God is telling him. And there are some authorities who you could never meet. And the fact that you could never meet them indicates that they're above you.
Yes, right. Yeah, oh, nice. So the fact that God is putting Moses as the mouthpiece is saying to Pharaoh, sorry, you're not on my level.
That's right.
Nice, love it. I think that's really there. I'm sorry, Audrey. Well, it could be. Paul's point is that if God came and spoke to the Pharaoh, he's kind of putting himself on the Pharaoh's level, but no, God is higher. So somebody else has got to communicate. Yeah, and I think that's there. I think that's, in fact, especially when what you know about the culture of kings and queens and the status and the royalty and the honor, and you just didn't get to go up and, talk to the head person.
Yeah, we saw it even in Esther's situation.
Yeah.
You're gonna be put to death if you entered in front of the king.
Right, yeah.
So he's telling Moses to take care of his life.
He's telling Moses to take care of his light work. Well, yeah. Yeah, it's like, I don't deal with Pharaoh, so I'll let you do it. Joyce?
So how did Moses get an audience with Pharaoh?
Well, remember that's a good question. It's just assume that he can do that. Remember his history as growing up in Egypt, having being really brother to the Pharaoh's son.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that's what people assume, but the text doesn't say, it doesn't explain why he could get that entrance. Yeah, that's good. Kathy?
I was just also wondering if there's a parallel with if Moses is like.
Sorry, this one's still waking up. It wasn't what you said. The owl is happy now. It's got its foot there. Please, Kathy, back to what you did. I know. Do you remember what you were saying?
Say is there a parallel also between like Moses being God, Aaron being like a prophet, and the people that the prophets are talking to not believing and not cooperating and not responding the way they're supposed to? I wonder if, that was part of the whole Pharaoh not cooperating at first.
Could very likely.
Kind of the Israelites' history.
Why should we listen to this prophet? Yeah. when the prophets go up against the kings of Israel or the kings of Judah, they're like, shut up. I don't listen to you. And I've got my own prophets. I listen to them. Yeah, yeah. Sharon?
It took a while. Different people challenge each other along the way, so it seems to me like there's a model that happens in just organizing people and getting them out of their ruts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They, yeah. It's hard to get the word out. It's hard to get people to believe stuff. Yeah. All right, shall we keep going?
Yeah.
Let's keep going. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart. We talked about this. God is in charge. And though I multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, Pharaoh will not listen to you. So Moses says, why would he listen to him? And God says, yeah, I know, he's not going to. That's the point. Moses is probably scratching his head at this point. Then I will lay my hand on Egypt and bring my hosts, my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring out the people of Israel from among them. Moses and Aaron did so. They did just as the Lord commanded them. Now Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke. Does that mean that whoever we elect as president? I was really worried about it, but now I guess it's all right. Boy, that was just,
Nobody's living to 133.
that's true. There's a different scale here.
Yeah.
If you live to 140, 80's like our 40, 60 years old. Okay. Now, this is cool though. What God is telling Moses is, no, you're not going to be successful. The Pharaoh is not going to listen. But that doesn't mean I don't want you to go tell him.
That's hard.
That is a hard job. The point to Moses is that you're going to bring them out. I'm going to bring them out through you, through great signs and wonders, and everybody's going to know who I am. Because the Pharaoh is not going to listen. It is a bit of a wonder, isn't it? Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh says to you, prove yourselves by working a miracle, then you shall say to Aaron, take your staff and cast it down before Pharaoh, that it may become a serpent. Okay, so this is what you do. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did just as the Lord commanded. Aaron cast down his staff before the Pharaoh and his servants, and it became a serpent.
Aaron's staff.
Yeah, Aaron's staff. Then Pharaoh summoned the wise men and the sorcerers, and they, the Egyptians, the magicians of Egypt, also did the same by their secret arts. So at this point, hey, no big deal, Moses. I can get people to do the same thing. And you can't help but think about Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments, throwing his, although I don't know that they had Aaron throw his staff down, but I'm sure they did.
Is this kind of an example of, it's not a battle between Pharaoh, but a battle between God and Satan?
Okay, so is this a way of saying that, like Paul says, that our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities? And is this,
Yeah, because all the magician doing, I just keep thinking Satan's got a hand in it.
Yeah, you know, we don't, Pharaoh, is this the same word as Genesis? Let me just look up. Let me just go to Genesis 3. The serpent. So this is the word snake in Hebrew. And I believe the word, so this is nachash or nachash. And so what is it here? It is a different word. Tanin, which is sometimes like a sea monster or sea dragon or whatever. So it's a little different word. So that might give us indication to say, well, this isn't the serpent of Genesis tempting Adam and Eve, but the magical arts. There seems to be something supernatural. So I don't think your comment is without, what source are the Egyptian magicians tapping into?
Yeah.
I think is a legitimate question.
I
Yeah.
wonder if Aaron's staff was heavier than the
Yeah, because it's all wet. All right, then Pharaoh summoned the wise. Okay, we did that. For each man cast down his staff, and they became serpents. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staff. There you go. That's why it's heavier. Still, Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. And so here we go into the plagues and into the signs. Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go. He doesn't say to Moses, I hardened his heart. Just says it was hardened. So this is where you start getting this little dance in the Hebrew. Did God do it? Did Pharaoh do it? Is it both? Does it matter? Do we just accept it? That's the way it is. You know, these are all the tough questions.
I suppose the magician hopefully knows that.
Well, what said that? Or are you were making that point? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because God could shut everything down, right? Yeah. Still trying to get that owl to link in.
He went to sleep.
This study Bible does say either they have their secret arts either through sleight of hand or by means of demonic power.
Okay. So was it a magician's trick or was it actually an evil spirit, a demonic power? Nonetheless, Moses's or Aaron's staff got the better of it. Then the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is going out to the water. Stand on the bank of the Nile to meet him. Yeah, it is kind of interesting that Moses is still a free man at this point, you know. Stand on the bank of the Nile and meet him, and take your hand the staff that turned into a serpent. And you shall say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. So now we get a little bit more of a reason, so that they can, in essence, by saying they can serve me, that I will be their God, and they can worship me, and I want this relationship with them, so that they can serve me rather than who? Pharaoh. I think that's the real key there. Let's see. Here we go. But so far you have not obeyed. Thus says the Lord, by this you shall know that I am the Lord. Behold, with the staff that is in my hand, I will strike the water that is in the Nile, and it shall turn into blood. The fish in the Nile shall die, and the Nile will stink, and the Egyptians will grow weary of drinking water from the Nile. So the Nile, of course, is the hub of civilization. This is like one of the great rivers of the planet. And why Egypt was such a powerful nation in this time. Maybe this is a good spot to pause and talk about how modern folks like to try and say, well, this is what caused that. They might not even say it wasn't supernatural as such, but have you heard of red tides? There are big swaths in the ocean because of how much, nitrogen that we're putting in the ocean, that you get these algae blooms and everything is dead. Miles and miles and miles of ocean, and there's nothing alive because it eats all the oxygen. So of course, modern people want to like demythologize or miracleize. You can do some of that, but regardless, Moses made it happen. And it shall turn into blood. The fish in the Nile shall stink. We got that. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over the rivers, their canals and their ponds and all their pools of water, so that they may become blood. And there shall be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. So now, even for the people that say, oh, it was a red tide or it was, well, how does that, the water in their stone jars from 2 days ago turn to blood, so.
Jesus turned his into wine.
He turned his into wine, exactly. So, all right, does it work? Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded in the sight of Pharaoh and the sight of his servants. He lifted up the staff and struck the water in the Nile, and all the water in the Nile turned into blood, and the fish in the Nile died, and the Nile stank, so that the Egyptians could not drink water from the Nile, nor eat the fish. There was blood throughout all the land of Egypt, but the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts. Wow, I could see having your staff do some kind of weird thing, but they did the same thing. So Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. He would not listen to them as the Lord had said.
That doesn't make any sense. What water was there left?
Plantation, Dory or something.
Yeah, seems like they should reverse. They just turn the water to it.
It seems like this is that Pharaoh hit their magicians up in the back of the head and said, you just made matters.
Yeah.
Don't slap.
Yeah, did they first turn it back to normal water and then turn it back into the red stuff?
They turned it more red.
Blooder? More red, more,
I think they just want credit for this.
You think they just took credit for it?
Yep.
Inquiring minds want to know. That's interesting. I didn't even think about that. See, I'm not very linear that way. So Pharaoh's heart, so this goes back to Gloria's comment about this being a battle between evil, these and God. But the interesting thing is that these magicians and these evil spirits, whatever we want to call it, they're both doing the same thing, although they don't know it. They're keeping the Pharaoh's heart hard. But that's what God says, I'm going to harden his heart. I have a plan. They didn't know they were playing into God's hands. This is an ancient, well, I don't like the term theories of atonement, But ways to talk about Jesus's death for us is some of the, I forget which church father said that Jesus was the fish hook and worm, and Satan was the fish. And Satan thought, I'll kill the God's son. And it turned out that's the way God defeated him. So there, it's interesting that I think about that. That's not my preferred way of talking about Jesus's death, but nonetheless, the devil ended up getting duped, in other words. And I know I mentioned this, I think in Manna just this last week, or I forget when, but Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ, and you probably all watched it if you had the nerve to do so. It's very gory, of course, and horrible. And the gospel writers don't go into that detail, and that would be my only problem with it. But that is probably how awful it was. But nonetheless, what I appreciated about the Passion of the Christ is he had the devil being this kind of, what do you call it, where it's not a man or a woman, and androgynous, yeah, kind of androgynous figure, really eerie, pale looking, and he just moved in the background while Jesus was being tried, and and then when Jesus finally dies and he gives up his spirit, Gibson's portrayal has the devil crying out in anguish at that point. Because why? The devil realized, I've been duped. I've been defeated by my very evil I was doing. Well, there's a little bit of that in here, isn't there? These magicians are playing into God's hands by doing this stuff. And when I get to see Moses in heaven, I'm going to ask him, how did this work? So Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he would not listen to them as the Lord had said. Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and he did not take even this to heart. No big deal. And all the Egyptians dug along the Nile for water to drink, for they could not drink the water from the Nile. So we need groundwater here,
Well, my mind says that it was the grand sediment from Ethiopia, from the summer floods that came down and brought that flood.
Yeah. A lot of people ponder, what could be an earthly explanation for this?
Said the same thing about God parting the waters.
Oh yeah, they when we get there, it's like, there's this, tsunami or something, and they've tried to explain it. My even if you could explain how it could be parted, how did it come collapse on them so fast?
Yeah.
But they have explanations for that too.
What did the Israelites drink?
What did the Israelites drink? Good question. I guess they had to do the same thing.
They could have stored it away.
Maybe they had it ahead of time.
The ocean was affected by. I think that comes.
Is that coming up? Okay, well, let's see. Yeah. What's so great, and I love this, I love the question with us, like the narrator isn't concerned with answering that question. But we have these questions after the fact.
To get to the frogs, my favorite one.
All right.
Servants come to Pharaoh and say, there's frogs crawling around in your bed.
We can start on it. We got, 4 minutes. Then the Lord said to Moses, go into Pharaoh and say to him, thus says the Lord, let my people go that they may serve me. But if you refuse to let them go, behold, I will plague all your country with frogs. The Nile shall swarm with frogs that shall come up into your house and into your bedroom and on your bed and into the houses of your servants and your people and into your ovens and your kneading bowls. The frogs shall come upon you and your people and all your servants. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers, over the canals, and over the pools, and make frogs come up out of on the land of Egypt. So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same by their secret arts and made frogs come up on the land of Egypt. They just keep making it worse. And as we chuckle about this, can you imagine, can you think about the Hebrew people as they told this story? That there would have been like, can you believe they did that? I mean, I just can hear them around campfires and, saying, yeah, and remember when then the Egyptian magicians even made it worse for the people. That's just precious. So the Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, said, plead with the Lord to take away the frogs from me and my people, and I will let the people sacrifice to the Lord. Go to sacrifice to the Lord. All right, now this is Doug's favorite. So the frogs, did they know they taste like chicken? That's what I've heard. I don't know I've had frog. I've heard this. Frog legs are really good. Then the Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, said to plead. So plead, I'll let the people go sacrifice to the Lord. Now, did you catch that?
So the sacrifice to the Lord, which is what the first asked Pharaoh to do is 3 days to the sacrifice.
That's right. Just let us go out for 3 days. And so Pharaoh says, well, I'll do that. So now we're starting to bargain. We're going to get, I'll do that much. Moses said to the Pharaoh, be pleased to command me when I am to plead for you and your servants and for your people, that the frogs be cut off from you and your house and be left only in the Nile. What's being said there? So let's see. Moses said to Pharaoh, be pleased to command me when I am to plead for you and your servants.
That sentence in mine says, I leave to you the honor of setting the time.
I leave to you the honor of setting the. Okay.
When it's your house.
The when is the question. Okay. Tomorrow. Moses said, be it as you say, so that you may know that there is no one like the Lord our God. The frogs shall go away from you and your houses and your servants and your people. They shall be left only in the Nile. So Moses and Aaron went out from the Pharaoh, and Moses cried to the Lord about the frogs, and he had agreed with Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses. The frogs died out in the houses, in the courtyards, and in the fields, and they gathered them together in heaps, and the land sank. That's a lot of frogs. I'm sorry, not sank, stank. Yeah. Jeepers, I'm like, I don't remember that part of the story. See, I'm a little low on sleep here today. And the land stank, but the Pharaoh saw that there was a respite. When the Pharaoh saw that there was a respite, he hardened his heart and would not listen to them as the Lord had said. So now we get a point where who hardens Pharaoh's heart? He did. So it's kind of a combo here now. And the Pharaoh made a bargain. Moses delivered, but does Pharaoh deliver? Not a good idea, Pharoah. Well, we're gonna get gnats next week. We got a ways to go, don't we, Joyce? Well, we'll try and pull out of the plagues some good tidbits for you. So, all right, enjoy the rest of your day. Hang in there with the winter weather. God's peace be with you. We'll see you Sunday, if not before. Thank you, everybody.
Hey.